Did Michelle Hanley show up?
Yes, can you get her back on, please?
Yes.
Hey, Chair Davis, we are ready to go.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend Smith. We are back in open session and we'll turn to our sole committee work of the day. It's the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee chaired by Miss Amy White. Miss White.
Thanks, Chair Davis. Welcome, everyone, and thank you again for joining us mid-month or at the end of the month to tidy up these two items. Today, for the Education, Innovation, and Charter School Committee, I share that responsibility with Joe Kamnitz, and we are here to let you hear a presentation about the reopening for the recommendation for Southside Ashpole, the state's one innovative school district school. As you know, the State Board of Education acts as the school board, the decision-making body for that school, and as such, it's incumbent upon this body to make a decision about when schools should reopen as a result of decisions made at the state level to begin the reopening schools. So today, you'll hear that presentation, and I believe we have both Dr. Ellerby and Dr. Derek Jordan, and welcome, Dr. Jordan. We're excited about your leadership, and Dr. Ellerby, excited to hear from you as well.
Thank you very much, Chair White. Good afternoon to everyone again, and thank you for your time today. For nearly a year, educators across North Carolina and beyond have been working diligently to continue delivering instruction to students in the face of a pandemic. Our agency schools, like many others, have prepared for a safe return to in-person instruction. Dr. James Ellerby, Superintendent of ISD, and Mrs. Barbara Bacon, Director of the Governor Moorhead School for the Blind, will briefly summarize those efforts and the related proposals to offer our students and families the option to return to our campuses. Dr. Ellerby.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan, and thank you, Ms. White, and good afternoon to all the members of the Board of Education. I will go very briefly through our Plan B recommendation to the State Board to reopen school on an A-B weekly schedule with students returning on March the 1st. First of all, I'd like to share that we have followed the DHHS and the Lighting Our Way Forward guidelines to ensure the safety and the health and welfare of all our students and faculty members that will be on the campus. Also, we've actually coordinated with the public schools of Robertson County to ensure our transportation, child nutrition, and operational needs have been met according to our memorandum of understanding. And also, we have surveyed our community. 65% closely of the community members are in favor of the in-person instruction, and the others that have opted out, we do have the remote section for them. Students are offered 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for in-person instruction, and 1 day on Friday will be asynchronous. The in-person and remote instruction will occur simultaneously. K through 2 students will stay in a self-contained, while 3 through 5 is departmentalized and will do a rotation. The asynchronous days would include teachers planning, holding office hours, engaging in professional development and professional learning communities, as well as school improvement team items and concerns. Also, the classroom teachers will work with learning packets with manipulatives. We want to offer our students the manipulatives that they are been using in the classroom so that they can do the hands-on approaches with them. The breakfast and the lunches will be delivered to the classrooms. We'll still offer PE, art, music, and media with a focus on literacy. UPD has been working with the school to align a core to the standard course of study, as well as using the tools such as core knowledge, language arts, and Eureka Math. Professional development continues, and there's a virtual platform that teachers have been conducting professional development. If approved, we will post all the information on the Southside Ashpo website and also send emails. The re-entry plan and document will also be posted on the website and email. And the Southside Ashpo Parent Facilitator is planning to host some community outreach sessions. Information will be shared also with our partners, such as the 21st Century Tutoring Program, the Indian Education Program, as well as our faith-based community. Robocall will also be used to update students and parents and giving them an overview of our reentry plan and master kit schedule. And an executive summary will also be emailed to parents. Do I have any questions at this time?
No,
Okay, if there are no questions.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ellerby, it's Mrs. White. I thought I heard someone else speak. I do have a question.
I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Okay, so the slide that suggests that 65% of the population of Southside Ashpole plan to return to campus, is the ADM number still correct at approximately 220 students enrolled in the school at this time? And then, so are you suggesting that it's 65% of the 220?
No, ma'am. And the ADM has dropped to 208. So I see where you're seeing the 222 responses. But the majority of our parents have agreed to coming back to in-person instruction.
Okay, I think my leading question was, it's no secret that I've been an advocate to get as many children back in seats as safely possible. And so emphasis on the word safely. And one of the guidelines from the state is the maximum number of students in the classroom that could be socially distanced. And so I know the school capacity was about 500. And so even with 200, if everybody came back, the idea in my head, it could be wrong, and it's okay. I'm open for correction or redirection. But it seems to me that we could put all students back all at the same time, socially distanced with masks. Is that an erroneous assumption?
It is not, Ms. White, and I see where you're going with that our building capacity is large enough that we could host all of our students. Right now, we are prepared to be on an AB schedule because we aligned ourselves with the public schools of Robertson County, and our bus transportation and child nutrition, all of those orders are in. So right now, we would only be able to hold the half the population coming. But if you give us the flexibility, we could come back before the board or make a decision to move to a plan A in the near future.
Then Mr. Ellerby, I would ask that, again, bringing a new principal on board and moving students back. There are a lot of moving parts to this, and I'm not to suggest that we shouldn't tread carefully, thoughtfully, and with a plan in place. But I would like to make the motion that as soon as we can, that we move to get all students back in classroom space for at least 4 day a week, if not 5 day a week instruction as soon as possible.
Yes, ma'am. I will keep that.
And I'll say too, Chair White, certainly that is a priority for us. And as we get everyone in and acclimated to the protocols and expand our work with the public schools of Robinson County, we'll be better able to make some determination about what that timeline could look like.
thank you for that consideration.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Yes, this is
Hi.
Wendell Hall.
How you doing, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing well, sir. Just a question. When will the sanitizing occur?
Say that again, Dr. Hall.
When will the sanitizing occur?
All of those things, those protocols have been met already. I've had a professional to also come in, and everything has been already done.
And will continue to be done in keeping with the
Right.
guidelines as established.
Okay.
Daily protocols.
If they're in the class and that one day to where the teachers will have the opportunity to do office work or return calls, is it being proposed that maybe that's the day that the vendors could come in and do that work or not?
It would be a daily thing.
Daily.
We have the equipment there. We ordered our own equipment to
Okay.
ensure that our custodians could do a daily deep clean.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions, Ms. White or board members?
Mr. Chair, this is Catherine.
Hey, Superintendent Catherine Truitt.
Dr. Ellerby, how are you?
I'm doing good. I just wanted to make sure I have the right one.
My question is this. I understand and appreciate what you're telling us regarding aligning Southside Ashpole with the county at large. My question is this, does that alignment prohibit you from deciding on your own to return to or to switch to Plan A? Because I guess my question is, are you able to make that determination on your own, or do you need board approval? Because you could technically be in Plan A, provided that you are able to meet the social distancing requirements, which it sounds like you are.
Superintendent Truitt, we do have the flexibility to move to Plan A. So I think we want to get the staff and the students used to the protocols that we have established and arrangements that we have with Robeson County. But meeting and collaborating with them, we do not have to wait on them to move to Plan A before we move to Plan A. That's a flexibility that we have under the ISD.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that question.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Ellerby, this is Olivia.
Yes, Dr. Oxidine.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm marvelous. Just a question that tags along with that of Ms. White and Superintendent Truitt. Do you know right off the approximate percentage of students in the school who are driven to school by parents or relatives or friends, carpooling, I guess?
And Dr. Oxidine, I'm sorry, I don't know the numbers right off, and I have an approximation, but I don't have the exact numbers in front of me.
And the only reason I'm raising that question is that if parents are willing to drive there or make arrangements for students to be driven to school carpool, that would probably play into a decision to have some flexibility about bringing them all back.
Yes, ma'am, you're totally right. And I do know that some parents are choosing not to let their students ride the bus and that they will be transporting those students. So that's also a viable option, and a very good point.
You could probably bring that up with, in your conversations about coming back. You could, I know you will bring that up with Dr. Head.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions, Ms. White?
So Dr. Ellerby, it's Amy again. I feel strongly about this, and I would love to hear from my colleagues. I would really like to make the motion that we direct you to move to Plan A at Southside Ashpole as soon as is possible.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
and so I think that would need a second, but I'm hearing that there is an urgency. I know that there's an urgency to move these students back to full-time in-person instruction for 5 days a week if we can make that possible. But I'm putting that in the form of a motion.
Amy, this is Alan Duncan. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
And I may second your motion, but I want to make sure I understand this part. When you're saying going back to A, would you include the option for those parents who, for whatever set of circumstances, whether health in the family or health of the child, are reluctant to bring the child back into the school, at least yet, would they still have the option to do remote learning, even though the school is open for business fully under an option A?
What 100% we need to continue to offer that choice to families who do not yet feel safe to return. And so I can confirm that that's the intent of the motion, that for those students who are ready and willing to return to in-person instruction, that we, as soon as possible, provide that option.
Then I'll second the motion and ask that, including in the, with all due speed, the work with the public schools of Robinson County with respect to their busing system and transportation, so that that is coordinated in a way that will work, even though their system may still be on B when we're voting to go to A.
Thank you, and we can coordinate this, and we will do our best to move it as swiftly as possible to Plan A with an option for virtual learning to continue for those parents who may have concerns.
So, Mr. Chair, could we, do we need to call the question on that?
No, I think your description of the motion that you're bringing to the board is pretty clear. And so when we get to action items, we'll just make sure that it's clear for board members that what you're voting on at that time is the motion that you just proposed and that Vice Chair Duncan seconded.
Sir.
And I believe you have one other item, Ms. White. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So also under the Education, Innovation, and Charter School Committee is a discussion that we need to have for our residential schools. And so I'll turn the agenda back over to Barbara. If you're on the call, I'm so sorry that I missed you earlier, but welcome, and to whomever else might be presenting these slides for us today.
So if I may, Chair White, just simply indicate that we also have joining the call our school directors from the Eastern North Carolina School for the Deaf, Dr. Michelle Handley and Mr. Mark Patrick, the school director for the North Carolina School for the Deaf in the West. And both of the schools for the deaf are in session. And we are excited about the possibility of having Governor Moorhead School join. And so, Ms. Bacon, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, Chairperson White. As we continue to plan for in-person learning, we've been using the Strong School North Carolina Public Health Toolkit, and we've developed the GMS plan, which outlines our safety protocols, communication plan, and our resources. Our unique challenges for GMS have been to outline that students come from a third of the counties across the state of North Carolina. They also reside on campus 5 nights a week and are supported by 3 different shifts of staff. We've looked at considerations and some of them are worth noting. It's difficult for our students with visual impairment to judge the 6-foot distancing as required. 58 of our students are totally blind and cannot effectively maintain the 6-foot distancing. 60% of our students require sighted guides. So that means that they're on the elbow of someone with vision as they move around their environment. 55% of our students are medically fragile. 25% have difficulties following safety guidelines. Keeping hands clean is challenging, and the need is significantly increased when the hands are used as eyes to tactually see and obtain information. So in the GMS toolkit, we broaden the North Carolina standards to include GMS's unique circumstances. Examples that we have outlined are tactual markings on the floor. So we've actually taken small pieces of wood and nailed them into the floorboard so the canes can have markings every 6 feet. We've taken raised markings, lines every 6 feet so the canes can pick them up just enough so they're not trip hazards. We have used contrasting colors where possible so low vision students can pick up the markings for 6-foot distances. In the dining hall, we've split students, totally blind students, low vision students, so that they can have ease in traveling safely. We've had meals delivered to them so they don't have to worry about running into each other or tripping. We have screening measures in place where before they leave the cottages every morning, they'll have their temperatures taken. The health center has outlined those students with high risk so we can monitor them more closely. On transportations, students are screened before they get on their buses in Hickory or Charlotte or Fayetteville so that we don't bring them all the way to school and they may have been sick. If a student becomes sick during the day or week, they won't be transported home with the group. Staff will work with parents and guardians to safely transport their student home. With cleaning and sanitation, there'll be breaks in between the showers as each student has their own independent room and shower. Staff will go in and clean so that there will be disinfectant and sanitation with each use. Additional housekeeping and professional staff will be employed to increase the number of times that those areas are sanitized. We have a proposed timeline, and we hope that we can have those communicated to have the students return. They return on Sunday so that the parents can bring in all their medical protocols, sit down and talk to the nurse about medications, set up their classrooms. We hope to be able to do that in staggered shifts so that we won't have groups of parents coming in. If approved, we'll notify those stakeholders. We'll sit down and have input from the parents. Staff will continue during this time. They have communication systems going out where they're getting their vaccines. Hopefully, they have started to get them this week, so they'll have their second dose by the time that the students come in on the 21st. We have additional support set in so remote learning can continue for those students that parents feel are just too fragile to return. We'd like to implement strategies to target the populations so that students can continue to receive those learning options remotely, and that we can continue short-term programs in April and May as appropriate for those students, and also summer programming in June and July. So we have a program that we would like to continue once we bring the students back and have it successfully go on through the summer. So that's what we have proposed at the Governor Moorhead School. And if there are any questions, I'd be glad to take those at this point.
Madam Chair.
Who has a question? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I'm sorry, Wendell Hall. I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement if I can. I want to commend the staff there on how they have modified the toolkit in order to serve their population. I just think it's outstanding on what you have done, and I commend you and your staff on thinking along those lines with the wood, with the colors, and with the seating in the cafeteria. I just know what else to say, except thank you.
Thank you. We have such a creative group of teachers and residential staff.
Apparently so.
Any other comments or questions for Bria? Okay, what's next on our in the presentation?
Madam Chair, that concludes the presentation that we have prepared for you today. These months have certainly been challenging for everyone, but I hope we're all encouraged by the possibilities that come along with the vaccines and the ongoing research, particularly as relates to transmission of COVID-19 in schools. And so with that, we ask for your approval to offer in-person instruction as proposed, with the understanding that related to Southside Ashpole, we'll certainly provide updates through Dr. Townsend Smith, so that you can be well aware of the steps we're taking in that regard to move as quickly as possible, as safely as possible to Plan A.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Jordan. Thank you for your leadership today, and particularly special thank you to the leaders at the residential schools across our state for your willingness and your strong efforts to provide opportunities for these students to move back to full-time in-person instruction. We're excited about that, and that's our recommendation today. Mr. Chair, that concludes our committee report.
Thank you, Ms. White. We look forward to all of our North Carolina public schools reopening for in-person instruction. And while we recognize there are challenges to achieving that goal, we know that following the safety protocols as outlined in the Strong Schools Toolkit and as demonstrated by our residential school team allows us to protect students and staff members and return them safely to our buildings for in-person instruction. So my colleagues, that concludes our committee work. We do have one item of new business. As our financial situation continues to be fluid, we now understand that we have an opportunity to add a few items of great importance to the budget previously approved by the board in February. And for that board budget update, I'll turn to Vice Chair Duncan, who is also chair of the BizOp Committee. Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Davis. As Chair Davis just said, and I'm reporting along with Todd Chastain, our Vice Chair of the committee, there have been a chance to continue to update and review this budget as events have occurred. For example, since we passed this budget, there's been, I know many of you are aware of it, a very significant cybersecurity attack on one of our community colleges and on one of our government systems. And so that continues to be a real concern. So as we've gone back and continued to massage this in light of developments that are ongoing and in light of needs that we continue to know of and need to prioritize, there are a few categories that we intend to come back to the board with some additional comments and some firm figures by next week, and wanted to give the board a chance to know what categories are being considered so that we can be thinking about it in advance of the meeting. The first one, as I alluded to a moment ago, is in cybersecurity. And so we would look at both cybersecurity expansion and training. And we'd look at it in two ways. Part of it would be recurring and part of it would be non-recurring. As you will recall, it is cybersecurity expansion and training is included in our budget, but as we've continued to study it and taken a look at situations that continue to arise, it appears clear that we need to be even more aggressive and vigilant in terms of trying to protect our LEAs and the department in this area. And so we will come back with numbers that are significantly higher than the number, which was $5.5 million in total, was approved by the board earlier. in order that we can more meaningfully address this extremely important issue with all the privacy concerns that attach to it. Second area is science of reading training. This is something that's a very important initiative of the board, and as the Superintendent Truitt and her staff, who've had a very intense focus on this area, have continued to review the needs in this area. We believe that this, although not a new category, is a category where we will need to have some additional financial requests, and so that's still being finalized. Again, all of these are. But the intent will be to come back to the board with some additional requests for science of reading training, which is such an important part of our literacy efforts, which are, as the board has long said, critical to the work that we're doing. Along with that there's a competency-based education platform. We have assistance in terms of both the science of reading training and other pursuits in terms of our academic work with our districts and to provide support. And so that's an item that we intend to have as part of the budget at this point, and is a place where we likely will add, again, some additional resources because of the needs that are available and known. Another one is one that's near and dear to all of our hearts, and something we've dealt with very meaningfully for almost a year now. And in another couple of weeks, it will be a year that we've been dealing with this, which is child nutrition. And an item here, again, an item in which we would place more resources on, would be to eliminate the reduced price lunch copay issue. This would make our system more efficient. It would provide much better service to our children in need, and it's something that there's a strong sense by both the department and a lot of work that's gone into this, and by our board in past expressions of concern for the need to make sure that our children are properly nourished. That's another category in which which will come back to you with some movement in terms of the dollars. Two more items. One of them is governor's school expansion, and you'll recall this had been a board item previously when in the budget 2 years ago, and we have been very fortunate to have two excellent partners, one of them new to us and one of them of great long standing, both at Meredith and at High Point University. Bring two edges or two sides to how long they've been working with us on governor's school, one shorter and one longer, both doing an excellent job. And we're very grateful to them. So we're looking at an expansion of the governor's school program, and that will be keeping in mind that the amount of money that we've had in that program has not been enough to reimburse the schools properly for the amount of money it actually costs to operate the program. So we will come back with a number that more appropriately equates with the cost of the program. And then finally, there's been a lot of discussion by board members, and this has been, I think, uniformly received well and uniformly supported as we have looked at the annual teacher learning condition surveys. We have found as a board those surveys to be extremely informative and extremely important, both to how we can first recruit and then retain high quality teachers, and also how we can best have our high quality teachers positively affect the lives of our children. So several times the board has asked, and this appears to be the time when we believe we may think it's appropriate to move to an annual teacher survey conditions of their workplaces, and something that many members have asked for before, and we feel like this is important to do. And so you will probably likely see in that final category of additional items or additional categories a request to try to annualize that work because of its importance to the work in the education field. So those are the items, Chair Davis. I hope that's helpful, and glad to take any questions from any board members.
Any questions from our colleagues?
Chair Davis, this is Olivia.
Nine.
Thank you so much. And not a question, I'm just so delighted to hear that there is a response to so many presentations, positive presentations we've had over the years around the teacher working condition survey. And always at the end of the presentations have been statements about, oh, this is great, we should do something else, we should do it on an annual basis. So I am so happy to hear Vice Chair Duncan raise this up as a possible item that is going to move forward and produce some good ends for students, for schools, and for a lot of other research purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. Any other questions or comments?
This is Amy White. I have a question too, just for, a matter of interest. So when we include that in as a budget item, I'm excited about that, but can you put a practical application to what it is that we would be asking for? Is it a position to manage the data? Is it, what does that look like? What does additional funding? Is it in personnel that's needed? Or is it outcome related that we would be doing something with that data? Can you help me there? This is not a question of non-support. It's just for my better clarity and understanding.
Absolutely, and I welcome other additions, but my understanding is first and foremost, it's the cost of administration of the survey. There is significant cost when you're surveying 100,000 teachers around the state and trying to get an extremely high participation rate, which we've been fortunate enough to do for the most part. And so both the preparation, as you recall, the survey results are reviewed on an annual basis, and some things have been added with the approval of the board recently, and some things have been taken out with the approval of the board. So just simply the administration of the test is a significant part of the cost related to it. But at this point, I'm going to get my head underwater, and so I will defer to Dr. Townsend Smith or Freeburg McKinney, who I know could add to that response.
This is Dr. Townsend Smith, if Mr. McKinney doesn't chime in, but I know one piece of interest for you specifically, Ms. White, is that part of the work that, or part of the results that presented in the survey also inform the district and regional support work and can inform the transformation pieces that we are implementing across the state.
And Mrs. White, this is Freeburg McKinney, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So yes, in answer to your question, as of right now, there is an added cost to to move it to a yearly, since it's a every other year, and then also for an education program specialist that would help with the yearly iteration of that survey. As you well know, that this would definitely take more work, since they put so much effort into it on an every other year basis. So that the ultimate cost, and we're still getting that ready for the March board meeting, would include both of those, the services and also an education program specialist.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments or thoughts? We welcome them.
Yes, Vice Chair Duncan, this is Olivia again. I don't know how the process for getting this, for adding this to the budget, but I do know how to add it to the discussion. We have also talked about, in addition to collecting data, producing helpful reports, taking them over to, as opposed to the JLEOC, we've also talked about taking the data to the next step and tie some action research to the data through perhaps maybe a small pilot to incentivize school districts to say, we think we can do something else here. And certainly that will benefit the state board and other school districts and the whole good of the effort. So I just want to add that to the discussion, and maybe I can get back, because Dr. Townsend Smith and Mr. McKinney and I have stirred up this topic a bit. So I'd like for us to continue doing that if you think that is a reasonable fit.
Well, I don't want to speak for Superintendent Truitt, but I know she's very interested in research and development, including information like this coming from the district and how we can best utilize that moving forward. So I think what you are saying fits well with the model that we need to do more research and development in terms of best practices. And this is certainly, I think the board has long ago agreed that this is an important tool to that work.
Yes, you are correct. This is Catherine. I agree 100%.
Very good. That's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions from my colleagues for Vice Chair Duncan on this matter? Okay, hearing none. So colleagues, anticipate seeing the more details around these specific additions to our budget in your materials for next week's meeting, and we will put this on the action item list for the board's consideration. Thank you, Vice Chair Duncan, and particular thanks to our superintendent and her fine staff for doing this great work on our budget.
Yes, we should thank our staff for the good work that's going on here. Thank you for saying that.
So, colleagues, this concludes our items for this meeting. We'll move to our action items. Is there a request to remove any item from our action on first reading agendas? Hearing none, then I would request a motion to approve the following. EICS 1, which is authorizing the Innovative School District to move Southside Ashpo to Plan A while providing a virtual remote instruction option for students whose parents elect that option. And EICS 2, which is authorizing the Governor Moorhead Residential School to reopen in accordance with the presentation we just received. And 3, approval of the ISD proposed hire for a principal for Southside Ashpo as discussed in closed session. Is there a motion to that effect?
Amy White, so moved.
Motion by Ms. White. Is there a second?
Second, Ms. Kamnitz.
Second by Ms. Kamnitz. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Dr. Townsend Smith, will you call the roll to capture the vote?
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan. Keenan,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Falwell, Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, colleagues, advisors, and staff for your attention and participation today. This concludes our committee work. And I now request a motion to adjourn this February 24th, 2021 called meeting of the State Board of Education.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we conclude our meeting today.
Motion by Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Olivia, second.
Second by Dr. Oxendine. Dr. Townsend Smith?
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
unanimous.
Motion carries. We stand adjourned. See you next week.